Developed by President Studio and published by President Studio and Playway, Crime Scene Cleaner puts you in the shoes of Kowalski, a high school janitor and widower, doing his best for his daughter. Unfortunately, Elena, the daughter in question, is very sick and requires very expensive treatment, something Kowalski can't afford on his janitorial salary. And that kicks off the game. You'll play through a series of maps, cleaning, clearing, and disposing of evidence for the seedy underworld in order to make enough money to give his daughter a chance at a healthy life. Kowalski's no crime lord though. He's not a thug, a gangster, or a mobster. He's just a regular guy that does possess a moral compass. So you can imagine that some of the things he sees, the things he cleans, leaves a mark on his conscience. And that's what we'll be exploring in this video. So with all that said, let's dive into Crime Scene Cleaner. This first map introduces us not only to the mechanics of the game, but also how Kowalski ends up becoming a crime scene cleaner. While Tyler isn't any kin to Kowalski, his late father was Kowalski's best friend, so Tyler is kinda like a nephew to him. And said nephew has gotten himself into a bind and needs uncle's help in cleaning up a little accident, payment included. Kowalski isn't in the position to turn down money, so of course he accepts. Only, he has no idea where this train is gonna lead him. On a sunny evening, Kowalski arrives at the apartment building. It's obviously seen better days. There's trash and furniture strewn about the stairwell and other parts of the building. It won't be long, however, before the entire building is torn down and replaced with luxury apartments that the current residents most certainly cannot afford. Truly sucks for them, but it could be a boon for Kowalski. No building, no crime scene. But it's still here for now, and there's work to be done. The inside of the apartment in question actually looks much better than the building it sits in. You know, aside from the gallons of blood splashed everywhere. Keep in mind, all this blood came from one man, and that man in question is right here in the kitchen, with a big old Crocodile Dundee knife embedded within him.
Something wicked is clearly at play here.
The letter T on the handle is pretty incriminating for Tyler. Seriously, this dude would be pulling time for this, and I don't think he's cut out for that life. As you'll come to find out, Tyler doesn't really seem like the type of guy to be a stone-cold killer. This was definitely more along the lines of self-defense. We can find a little ledger here on the windowsill that lists a number of clients, the drugs that Rob's been supplying them, and who owes what. And it seems like he wanted Tyler to pay up.
Drag your ass over here.
Easy, bro. I am on my way.
I'm waiting.
Curiously, he has a trophy celebrating sobriety. So the guy kicked the habit, but he kept on selling. I mean, that's great and all. I'm not knocking anyone's accomplishment of overcoming addiction. Shit's hard. But this guy, he probably should have stuck with the drugs because his newfound passion is so much worse. There's little hints about this guy and what he's all about hidden in plain sight throughout this apartment. However, the real evidence of this guy's sick fantasies comes tumbling out of the attic hatch after Kowalski picks up the money Tyler left him.
What the actual
The attic seems to be his little hidey hole. Not only are there illicit substances and the devil's lettuce growing up here, but there's also a second body in a peculiar position. And all around her are Pickman's gallery-inspired art. This guy, this monster, fancied himself some kind of edgy artist. Which he actually isn't that bad at considering this normal painting outside, but, you know, normal's just not good enough for some people. Tyler truly has no idea the favor he did the world, and he probably never will, because Kowalski takes all those secrets, puts them in a tidy bag, and dumps them in some yet unknown location to be forgotten. Kowalski doesn't enjoy covering up such horrible crimes. He doesn't revel in the fact that the families and friends of these poor women will never get closure, that they'll never know what happened to their loved ones. But the only other choice he has is to report it, and then, more than likely, not only will Tyler get caught, but so will he. He's got a young daughter to take care of, and she's the reason he's even doing this. So he does it. Because despite it all, Elena is his priority. It's definitely a tough spot to be in. I know it'd be an awful decision you'd have to make, and either way, you're gonna have regrets.
3 bodies in my car. Is it still me behind the wheel?
My name is Jim. Big Jim.
Looks like Tyler blabbed. I'm gonna guess it didn't take much prying to get Kowalski's name out of his mouth, but then again, the guy who wanted to know? He's serious business, and not someone you want to piss off. Big Jim is the head honcho of a mob ring, and he has a job for Kowalski. A little test run to see if he really has what it takes to clean up the messes Big Jim leaves behind.
Have someone else wiping your blood off my shoes.
Working for BJ can be very profitable, but he demands loyalty in return. Miko's Wellness Center is the place he's sending Kowalski to. This little spa was owned by Mike, Big Jim's cousin. But Mike decided it was a good idea to team up with a rival gang, the Nomad Block, in order to overthrow Big Jim and cash out big time. The plan was to convince someone at Mateo's Pizza to poison Big Jim's food. However, as we can see, that didn't turn out how they wanted. Big Jim is a paranoid guy. He always thinks someone's out to get him. And most of the time, he's right. He found out about Mike's plan and beat him to the punch. His guys paid a visit to the spa where this meeting was going down and absolutely eviscerated the conspirators with prejudice. They could have just come in guns blazing and been done with it all in a matter of moments. But that's not what they did. No, they chose to take care of business in some more creative ways, like using an ice pick, a pizza slicer, and they even flexed their baking skills via tanning bed. Looks like this one was Mike's wife. She sounds awful, just like Mike, but damn, being cooked to death in a tanning bed is just rough, y'all.
What happened, ma'am? We don't think about it daily, but the human body is such a soft machine.
This is merely the beginning of Big Jim's warpath. There will be oceans of blood and mountains of bodies left in this man's wake, all for Kowalski to clean up.
Never mess with parental love. If something like that ever happened to Elena, I don't even want to imagine such a thing, because I already know that I would do anything to save her.
Not every job will come from Big Jim himself. Kowalski's name is out there in the criminal underworld now. He's the man you call to clean up your mess, and boy, these people are messy. This time, Kowalski receives a job request from a man named William. According to the email, William tried to save his daughter from a very bad relationship with a very scummy guy. He succeeded in getting her out of that relationship, but it came at a very high cost, and he wasn't the one who had to pay that bill. This swanky place is the home of Kyle, dickhead extraordinaire. As usual, the place is trashed and the walls are painted red. Above Kowalski, slumped over the banister, is one of the victims. It's not Kyle, but before you go feeling sorry for this guy, don't. You see, Kyle fancied himself a bit of a PIMP. You could say he dabbled in the trafficking of women. This list that you can find in his little panic room shows exactly what he intended for Jane. She wasn't his first victim, as we can see multiple women listed here, with labels like exotic and spicy, like they're commodities you buy at a supermarket. He obviously didn't see these women as people, they were just objects he could use to enrich himself at their expense. And the guy on the banister? One of the clients, specifically here for Jane. It's unclear if Jane knew exactly what Kyle was up to, but at this point it kinda doesn't matter anymore. You see, you could find Jane upstairs in a tub with music playing and razor blades on the floor near her. It's a little melodramatic, but it is very telling. According to Jane, she wasn't happy at home with her family. She felt like she was imprisoned there and that Kyle was her escape. She thought they had true love, but Kyle got her hooked on drugs and then, well, we know where that was going. She was heartbroken, betrayed, and decided to go out on her own terms, so to speak. Her father did not handle the situation in the best way. I'm not saying that I wouldn't go ballistic on anyone who hurt my loved ones like that, but he should have tried to talk to her with a cooler, calmer head. He should have shown her a little care and compassion instead of the aggressive name-calling. That's a surefire way to make someone not listen to you, especially in Jane's case. Jane saw her family as a prison. The message her father sent her probably made her feel like he was just trying to control her, which is what she was desperately trying to escape. Now, as you've noticed, I kinda gave the father the benefit of the doubt, reasoning that maybe he just loved Jane so much he couldn't contain his rage at what Kyle put her through. But that's not exactly true. I'm sure he did feel some type of way. These four walls show just how much rage he unleashed on these men. But, and this is a big but, the email you receive after finishing the job clearly spells out that this man didn't give a shit about Jane as a person. Thanks a lot, friend. I love my daughter and all, but I'm not responsible for her questionable life choices. Also, I'm too high profile to end up behind bars for one shotgun-related mistake. I'm glad you helped me out with that. That doesn't sound like a father who loved his daughter. He wasn't wrong about Kyle being bad for her. That dude was most certainly bad news. But I can't help but feel that he was part of the problem to begin with. Sometimes children make shitty decisions no matter how good of a parent you are. But Jane felt so strongly about her family being a prison that she would rather end it all than go back to them after she found out Kyle was a shitty person. That speaks volumes. Her father was part of the problem. He made living in his home so terrible that she escaped the only way she knew how, and unfortunately ended up with someone who just wanted to use her. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, but damn, William wasn't even trying to be a good one.
Don't ask me why smart houses began to creep the shit out of me. I saw so many weird things all in one place. No wonder those people went mad. If I didn't know, I would have gone mad too.
Yet another job from another person who hasn't made the best decisions. It's one thing to clean up after a man with very questionable parenting skills, but to be made to clean up after a cringe king? Ugh, Kowalski's really sunk into new lows. This house gives off some pretty haunting vibes, and not just because of the stupid Halloween-themed speaker noises chiming around every corner. Apparently, this elite hacker was attempting to scare the family out of the home by making it seem haunted, which in turn would cause the price to drop so he could scoop it up for a mint. But what he didn't understand is people are unpredictable, and you never really know what's going on behind closed doors. Not that it would have deterred him, I'm sure, but now he has an entire family's death on his hands. He didn't pull the trigger, but he most certainly set things in motion. The mother of the family suffered from some sort of psychosis, though it's unclear if she had this before the Cringe Lord decided to meddle in their lives, or if it manifested afterwards. Regardless of when or how it came about, the actions of Kowalski's clients certainly made it worse. Paul, the son of the family, saw how weird his mom was acting. He knew something was up with her. The little things that were happening he merely wrote off as smart house glitches. Nothing to be too concerned about. But his mother saw it far differently. She suddenly became religious, which turned into a religious psychosis where she truly believed that demons or the devil was tormenting her and her family. The medication she was taking either stopped working or she stopped taking it. She became so convinced that the devil had a hold on her son that the only way to save his soul was to bring down some holy wrath.
I had to save my little boy. Save his soul from the evil spirit within him.
And the way she went about it, good grief. While her husband got buckshot to the chest, she elected to bludgeon her son with a heavy metal cross. Normally, I'm sure her son could have fended her attack off, but it looks like she caught him when he was asleep. She didn't forget about herself either. Surrounded by candles, she plunged a knife into her heart and perished in the dining room, leaving the Pumbaa to smear her Hawaiian Punch Kool-Aid on the floor in the shape of a pentagram. As usual, once Kowalski finishes his task, you'd never be able to guess such a brutal thing happened in this home. However, there is something unexplainable happening here. While cleaning this mess, Kowalski will come upon this room that is clearly dedicated to the family's cat. I mean, I love animals, but this is a bit obsessive. Anyway, the point of mentioning this room and this cat is that some weird things happen here. Once Kowalski passes through once, the room will suddenly be in disarray with bloody cat paw prints all over the walls. I don't think even the most elite hacker of all hackers can make that happen. On the bright side, maybe this cat spirit will dole out a little karmic justice to the Cringe Lord and send him scurrying away like the rat he is.
What a massacre. Here I thought that I'd finally gotten used to this job. I couldn't be proved any more wrong. That made me realize that there's no escaping Big Jim. At least, not if I didn't want to be full of holes like a cheese.
We've got more people plotting to take Big Jim out. This man has more enemies than friends. I guess that comes with the territory, though. You don't get to be the big dog of the underworld by being nice to people.
Did someone call for Big Jim?
They should have known that now was the absolute wrong time to plot against him, though. His paranoia must certainly be at its highest after his cousin tried to stage a coup against him. Of course he'd be on high alert, but thanks to their poor timing, Big Jim and his men got the drop on them too. But that's not the bad part. They were mobsters and they knew the dangers that kind of life would bring. And they aren't exactly innocent. I mean, they had another guy chained up by his wrist in the walk-in freezer, and from the looks of the tools around, he wasn't just there to hang out. But there are two completely innocent victims here that had nothing to do with any of it. They were just collateral damage. The old lady across the street happened to see too much, and Big Jim couldn't have that loose end running around. And then there's Tammy, the waitress. She was just trying to do her job, and she got shot in the leg and the neck for it and bled out against a dumpster in a dirty alley. She didn't deserve to go out that way. What's even more heartbreaking is the messages on the phone next to her. Her father was concerned, truly concerned about her working there, and now he'll never get to see her again. Her last words in this life are on that phone, and Kowalski, he's gonna have to do what he always does, clean it up, like it never happened. But it did happen. Kowalski may seem numb on the outside. He has a very stoic way about him and can compartmentalize really well. But deep down, he is affected by this. He's a father to a daughter that he's doing everything he can to make sure she has a long, happy, and healthy life. And now here he is, having to wipe away the death of an innocent girl who was a daughter to a caring father. It's gonna eat at his subconscious, and eventually he's gonna have to come to terms with it.
Another innocent soul ending up in a body bag in my car. Am I the real monster now? I don't know at which point it started to become mundane. But I do remember that, at that time, all I was thinking about was at least it wasn't me who was being put in a bag.
The job emailed this time is much more presumptuous and demanding than the others thus far. The client in question says that Kowalski owes them, but I have no idea what he's talking about. Honestly, it could mean absolutely nothing because this guy is batshit insane. Saying that he's the jealous type is severely underselling it.
No thanks.
When Kowalski first arrives at the home, he's already greeted with a literal bloodbath. Draining the pool reveals the pool boy at the bottom. Now, why exactly is this guy here? Well, like every victim here save one, he was collateral damage, per the usual. Although he wasn't completely innocent, as we can find out, he was attempting to blackmail Mark, the father and husband of the house. He caught Mark cheating on his wife with a woman named Bianca. He really could have just done the moral thing and told Mark's wife about it, and maybe that could have saved lives. But no, he didn't. He got what he wanted out of the deal and then paid the ultimate price. However, he didn't set this in motion. He wasn't the one who cheated. He wasn't the one to storm the house and become a family's worst nightmare. No, that all goes to Mark and the client of this particular job. For the client was Bianca's husband, and he was very, very angry.
What are those noises down there?
He shot Mark's wife multiple times, as if he was taking his anger out on her as much as Mark. He even went as far as to not only kill Mark's son, who was just chilling playing some video games, but also gave Mark's daughter the Shelley Duvall treatment a la The Shining. I mean, really, this whole map could be considered a Shining reference considering how nuts this guy went. It's a real shame, too. Those kids didn't deserve it, even if their son was a streamer. The wife didn't deserve it either. It seems she genuinely loved her stepkids and her husband, and she was really trying to keep things together. We can see from her journal and some clues around the house that she used to be a fitness instructor, and she was even Miss Teen 2000. But now she's older and a little more out of shape and not comfortable in her body anymore. She had depression and took medication for it, but realized that medication alone wasn't gonna get her where she wanted to be. So she was taking the steps to better herself. She really seemed like she was on a good path. It's just a shame that the man she married was not worth her love and care. The only silver lining here is Mark got what was coming to him. He wasn't just a cheater, he willingly put his family's life in danger to pursue another woman. He had to have known just how dangerous of a game he was playing. Rest in peace, Mark.
Hi, Mark. Sometimes I wonder if it all had to end up like this. Tyler was a grown man making his own decisions. There was nothing more I could do to save him. But was that death truly necessary?
This is yet another heart-wrenching job because this time, we're at Tyler's apartment. It's a nice little place that he and his girlfriend Trisha had here, and what makes this job all the more devastating is that all around the apartment are clues to show that Tyler was really trying to turn his life around. Even before this went down, Tyler was excitedly telling Kowalski about his new life and how things were looking up. But as much as he was doing good, he was still working for Big Jim. He'd taken Rob's job after the events of Bad Call. Though, considering the type of person Jim is, Tyler might not have had the option of leaving that life.
I made some bad decisions. Then my life became messier than your litter box.
In any case, he'd fallen in love with a woman that was good for him. He'd started therapy, and even the people he invited into his home were also trying to do better. But Big Jim is more paranoid than he's ever been. He's had multiple people try to take him out in a short amount of time. So Tyler associating with even an ex-rival gang member was enough for Big Jim to put him on the chopping block. Tyler, of course, wasn't betraying BJ, but that doesn't matter. Boss Man saw it that way, and that was that. The real knife in the heart here can be found in the bathroom just on the counter across from Tyler's body. Trisha, his girlfriend, was pregnant. Big Jim took away bright, happy futures from these people for absolutely no reason at all other than his extreme paranoia. This is not a person anyone should be involved with, but Kowalski's in too deep now. He can't do anything about this other than what he was hired to do. Otherwise, not only will his life be in danger, but so will his daughters and anyone who associates with him. He's stuck.
Amber. Who would have thought? Like father, like daughter. This whole party didn't even really seem necessary.
This one comes from Amber, Big Jim's daughter. Sounds like she was having a wild party at the summer resort her father bought her. Typical rich brat shenanigans. Well, maybe not that typical considering there are multiple bodies to disappear. But at least this one seems like it genuinely was just some stupid kids doing stupid things while blasted out of their gourd and, well, accidents happen. However, this Amber certainly has no empathy for her friends. She doesn't care how Kowalski deals with their bodies, she just wants it dealt with because it's a mess and she doesn't clean up her own messes. Scanning the grounds, we can see that a few deaths can be attributed to someone deciding an explosive barrel was a great thing to put on a campfire, which did what you expected to do, sending metal shrapnel and bodies flying everywhere. Subsequently, the body of one girl flew into one of the cabins where two guys dressed as construction workers were,
Guys, we're so drunk right now. Perfect time for a podcast.
And ended up taking out one of the men upstairs, while the other valiantly tried to reach his friend. Drugs and questionably safe ladders do not mix well. One of the rungs broke, sending him toppling to the floor where his head met the corner of a pallet of particle board. And yet another decided riding a tricycle on a roof was a good idea. It was not. Just like it wasn't a good idea to shoot at people with a crossbow. This is why I don't host parties. You're always left with a damn mess.
Seeing with my own eyes what these billionaires use their money for was disgusting. While some of us are trying to make ends meet, others find pleasure in some gruesome fun. The world really is just a playground for the rich.
Oh boy, Kowalski has a job on his hands here. He's been contracted to clean this museum where multiple bodies lay strewn about, and there are so many misplaced exhibits. Though the deaths here are pretty intriguing, as it seems some rich assholes decided to run their own Squid Game shenanigans. 10 people participated in this game where the rich bet on various things like who would last the longest, or who would get the most kills, or who would die first. It's hard to say if any of those bets would have won the better some money. Well, I'll accept the one who would last the longest. Nick Knight. If you're fast to make it to the bar, you'll see for just a second that the status next to Nick's name said alive before quickly shifting to match the rest. It makes this all the more unsettling that I'm pretty sure the guy right behind Kowalski is Nick Knight. He perished while Kowalski was standing there, just feet away. Still, it doesn't matter that he lasted the longest. He's leaving here the same way everyone else here is. It's really a bummer that these people slaughtered each other for some people who have more money than morality. And to add salt to the wound, whoever designed the game thought they were clever by placing this here. The gift of guilt. Please spare me that bullshit. Oh well, at least Kowalski can take that prize money for himself.
This was the moment when Big Jim was at his weakest. With so many people going after his ass, he needed to make a choice. If not, there probably wouldn't be anything else to anticipate but his imminent downfall.
This is the last hurrah with Big Jim and the biggest place to clean so far. One last coup was plotted against Big Jim, led by the foreman and joined by the warehouse workers. They wanted to end his tyranny. Well, most of them just wanted to be paid fairly for their work. However, with Big Jim as the boss, they had to know that was never gonna happen.
Keep him on a tight leash.
But that wasn't what really kicked all of this off. The foreman I mentioned a second ago? Well, that's Tammy's dad. You remember Tammy, the waitress that was unjustly murdered at Mateo's Pizza? Well, her dad wasn't gonna let that lie. He began digging and pieced together Big Jim's network all on his own. He wanted justice for Tammy, or maybe just revenge. Either way, I can't fault the guy. The justice system can't do anything about Big Jim because there is no evidence. Because, well, Kowalski's damn good at his job. Unfortunately, no matter how admirable this guy's conviction to avenge his daughter was, he didn't accomplish his goal. Sure, some of Big Jim's men ate dirt, but the big guy himself is still alive and kicking and wholly unbothered by all these events. In fact, he's gonna go on a little vacation, disappear for a while to let the heat die down, so to speak.
And this right here, it's scorching.
Somehow, he manages to find a fall guy that will take his place and do the time for him, while he gets away with it all scot-free. It's not really a happy ending, but it is a little bittersweet. Kowalski made enough money to pay for Elena's treatments, and they worked. Whatever the problem may have been, she's now in the clear and ready to come home. Now, for a while, that was the ending. Then Nightmare Mode came along and flipped the script on the previous maps, making them fresh and quirky. I showed most of the pertinent scenes from those nightmares already, but I didn't quite explain why they exist. So Kowalski saw some crazy shit, right? That's bound to leave a mark on you in some way. These nightmares were like his subconscious working through all that messed up shit he saw, trying to reconcile with it. He often sees the reoccurring faces of those victims that hit him the hardest. And from time to time, the spiritual janitors will appear talking about how the pipes are filled with rot. The same pipes that Kowalski uses to dump all that bloody water down. There's also scenes of spirits of innocent victims trying to hide from something called the Wicked One, which actually turns out to be Kowalski himself. He was the one who would come to take them away and dump their bodies like the Bay Harbor Butcher. Kowalski seeing himself as the Wicked One shows he feels guilty about his role in all of this, and that he eventually accepts that fact. He is guilty, but I doubt he'd do anything different.
All hail the Wicked One.
But that isn't the end, because we now have a Chapter 2, and Amber, Big Jim's daughter, is the one to kick it off. Some years have passed since the end of Chapter 1. Elena's all grown up and moved off to college, leaving just Kowalski and Dexter to themselves once again. Kowalski laments his mundane day job, missing the excitement of his mob work. Sometimes he'd rather be cleaning blood than toilets. Well, his wish has been granted, because a grown-up Amber needs a good crime scene cleaner.
Mobster's daughter becomes a ruthless criminal. What were the odds? Still, I had to play along. Elena couldn't find out about the things I've done. So, however you looked at it, I was pretty much fucked.
Amber, now cut off from her father's money and any protection he could have given her, was desperate.
A monster goes missing, and his daughter becomes who? A famous actress? A business icon?
And we all know there are predators out there that prey on desperate people. Dave is one such predator. Dubbed the King of the Ring, Dave Brawl was what Kyle wanted to be. Rich, egotistical, and doing his part in ruining the lives of down-on-their-luck women. This went beyond random ne'er-do-wells. Dave supplied women to corrupt cops and senators. He was in the big leagues.
I don't think I had the pleasure.
Oh, you had. In your mansion with many of my girls.
Amber suffered the same treatment Jane would have, though Amber was never blinded by love. She didn't feel heartbreak, she felt anger. So she plotted with another of the girls named Cassie to poison the drinks at the bar, then made her entrance and turned this place into a slaughterhouse. From drug peddlers to people like this little grub, all faced the wrath of a woman scorned. It's understandable why Amber would want to do this. I don't blame her. These people needed to be taken out of society. But you have to be careful with vigilante justice. Things can get out of hand really quick, and then you become the monster. The first body Kowalski comes across is that of Cassie herself. She didn't make it out of the melee alive. Her helping Amber put her life at risk, and she paid the price. And Amber doesn't really give a shit. All she wants is revenge. Amber's quest seems noble on the outside, but when you realize what kind of person she is, you quickly understand that this revenge run isn't for anyone else but her. And it doesn't matter who gets hurt along the way, as long as she gets what she wants. However, despite how much I dislike Amber, none of this should have happened to her. She should have never been put in a position like this, and I am sympathetic to that. And I'm not sad to see disgusting people no longer polluting the world with their terribleness. Dave got what was coming to him, and so will many more.
White Peaks Hotel. A place where you can get more than a little kinky. I guess this is what rich people mean by the word fun. Too bad that, for me, it was pure nightmare fuel.
Amber isn't stopping her revenge run anytime soon. She's determined to make anyone who had anything to do with Dave and his business pay the toll. That leads Kowalski to this swanky retreat. Scratch that, it's more of a fish hotel where some of the trafficked girls were sent to work for Lars, the owner of this house of ill repute. This place is outfitted with a relaxation area, a bar, a dining area, a number of themed rooms, and a auction area where the women were sold like cattle. And despite how nice the White Peaks looks, the girls are given this flop house of a room where beds are crowded together and they get a dinky little TV for whatever entertainment they might be given, which, probably wasn't much. These girls were meant to be seen and not heard. They were merely a product to be used for Lars to gain money and favors. Yet another asshole exploiting unfortunate women. The hotel is outfitted with robot butlers and some very dangerous security measures. Amber managed to convince the late Cassie's brother to hack into the White Peaks and turn on lockdown mode, which wreaked havoc on the customers. However, the main man in question, the one who's running this place, Lars, managed to lock himself in his office and jumped out the window to escape the overdue punishment he deserves. Still, that's not the end of the road. We can find out this Lars guy is also tied to Senator Holden.
Ever. Call me on Sunday when I'm at church with my family.
And Big Jim himself. Amber isn't exactly privy to this knowledge just yet, however. But you can bet that when she learns her father's been rubbing shoulders with the very people that hurt her, she ain't gonna be happy about it.
This has gone too far. No doubt about that. Amber's personal vendetta has grown into a real crusade. And I'm not sure how to get out of this. Even Big Jim, crazy as he was, seemed more predictable than his daughter.
Here at Senator Holden's multi-million-dollar estate, some really weird shit went down. Here we can finally see with our own eyes just how cracked this guy was. He played his part as a man who upheld traditional values, and, well, that's true. The traditional values of the scummiest, weirdest, and most vile people to exist. All over this villa, we'll find his followers, all dressed in the same garb, emblazoned with his cult logo. They came to Holden for the promise of eternal life, and boy, was the entrance price a doozy. This clearly points out that this cult, and it is a cult, is all about blood and money. Even his wife is guilty of these sins. She not only knew what was going on, she aided in it. But I'll give one thing to this creature. I think he actually believed the nonsense he was spouting. I think he believed that this magical concoction paired with his satanic worship would truly grant him immortality. He was all about this wine, this blood of the lamb. Not only was he eager to advertise this potion, but as we can see, in his last minutes he drug himself here to drink his magic wine, hoping it would save him. It did not. As much as we would like for him to be put on display like Lars was, all skewered and looking like a Christmas tree topper, I think this is a fitting end for him. He wanted immortality, and he was denied it on all fronts. He's here, secluded away, all by himself. No one to witness his death, no spectacle to be had. Just a quiet, sad, pathetic end.
That was it. Big Jim's offer finally gave me the chance I needed. All that was left was to make a final choice.
This is the end of the road, babe. Well, at least for now. Kowalski gets a call from a dead man wanting to meet up and exchange dirt on each other. Kowalski doesn't have much of a choice here. To say no would mean certain death. However, accepting doesn't mean it's without its dangers. Both Big Jim and Amber have proven to be bloodthirsty. Betraying either of them could end with deadly consequences. However, this is crime scene cleaner, not crime scene maker. So of course, when Kowalski arrives at the defunct bowling alley, all the action's already taken place, leaving him to do what he does best. Now here's where the Kill Bill parody reaches its crescendo. Look, there's Vernita Green. And we even have Oren Ishii and Ellie Driver. And of course, we have Amber in the role of the bride, and Big Jim as Bill. But this didn't play out the same way. Amber definitely was the one to stick that blade in her father. But Big Jim was not the one to end his daughter. Despite how bad this dude was, I don't think he'd have it in him. There was some kind of, I hesitate to say love, because if he really loved her, he wouldn't have abandoned her or, let happen to her what happened. He'd be furious with the people that hurt her, but in reality, he wants to take over their business. But still, there was something there that kept him from dealing that lethal blow. That, however, was not a problem for his men. They conspired behind his back to kill her, and he had no idea. It's crazy to think that this is the guy who was so paranoid, he, with no provocation and the flimsiest excuse, executed Tyler, his girlfriend Trisha, and their friends just because some of them were ex-rival gang affiliates. Maybe those closest to him learned how to hide their treachery, or maybe he got lazy. Who knows? Either way, be it that they hired someone or this was one of their crew, a hitman who could be Agent 47's dim-witted cousin was the one to take her out with a crossbow. I do feel a little bad that this is how Amber's life ends. However, she isn't exactly the innocent little flower. She's careless and callous and doesn't give a damn about those she calls friends and allies. She never has. She doesn't care about the victims of these people. She only cares that she was one, and that she got her revenge.
But we came here to bring down Holden, and that's all that matters.
But for now, this is truly the best possible ending for Kowalski. With Big Jim and Amber gone, there's no one left that has dirt on him. He's free to live his life as he sees fit.
Just some ordinary person.
Well, until the next expansion anyway. So that's Crime Scene Cleaner, as it is now in the year of 2026. I am eager for Biohazard to release and see how Kowalski's story progresses. And of course, enjoy some new and interesting maps, and maybe even some new tools. That'd be cool. I will mention that there are 2 maps I've negated to show, and that is the community maps. I don't particularly care for the storyline of these maps. I think of them as optional, wacky things that aren't pertinent to Kowalski's story. Anyway, I really encourage you viewers to play this game if you enjoy a slower paced Zen experience, or if you just like cleaning stuff. or if you like crime stuff. I won't be putting the cozy tag on it because that word is cursed, but it is very chill. Even with the story spoiled, it doesn't really take away from the experience, to be honest. The main draw of this game is the gameplay, not the story per se. Though that doesn't mean the story doesn't add anything, because it most certainly does. But I think that's gonna wrap this video up, so let me go ahead and say thank you to everyone who stuck around this far. You are the GOAT. If you enjoyed this video and any of my others, please feel free to like, sub, comment, and all that jazz. And with all that said, all the links are gonna be in the description, and once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again on The Midnight Goat.